All right, everybody, welcome to the Hunter's Quest podcast. This is your host, Hunter McWaters, and today I'm joined by Casey Richmond. How you doing, man?
Good, good. How are you doing?
Good, dude. It's good to see you again. I think we met briefly last year at the Seekins booth at the expo, but hadn't
Yep.
really talked to you since then. Um, and so yeah, how's your season, man? I already know, kind of. If you
Yeah,
guys have
no,
been
it's
on
good.
social media, you saw probably that ridiculous bull he shot this year that we were just talking about. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, how was it?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, I guess after I saw you at the expo, bear season was long. I mean, here in Idaho, we get to hunt, for what is it, 3 months, 3.5
Yeah.
months.
Okay, let's talk about that a little bit because I hunted
Yeah.
bear this year in Idaho and we had a really rough time.
Really?
Yeah, because I don't know if I hit the timing wrong or what, but it seemed like anywhere we tried to get to like just at the snow line, like we were getting like snowed out, like we couldn't get the vehicles up there, or we were like walking in like hip deep snow.
Yep.
And then like it felt like once you got below that, it was like too low and it was summer and like I don't know, we didn't have
Yeah.
we saw one sow and cub the entire week I was out there, and we didn't know if they slept late this year with all the snow from last winter or what. What's your take on the bear season this year?
Yeah, it was kind of rough for us. But I think each spot kind of has its time during the season, and it can be kind of that spot's time for a month, or it can only last a couple of days where it's really good. And sometimes it switches on and switches off. We also run baits here that are kind of fun just because if, even after work, we'll
Yeah,
go hit our baits and bait after work, usually 3, 4 times a week. So,
nice.
usually on the weekends, we try and go spot and stock, and then we try to do a week long trip, either one or two of those during the season too. So,
Yeah,
but this season was hard. I mean, when you get weather, it definitely like changes the behavior sometimes for the better, but usually not. And that happened to us 2 years ago where we were in a really good spot. We knew some guys that had just done really well the week before in that same spot, and we hiked, I think it was 16 miles in.
Whew.
Um, and it was pretty brutal country, and we literally saw, yeah, a sow and two cubs over 8 days. So, um,
Yeah.
and we just
And the
had a lot
spot
of
we were
rain.
in looked so good. I mean, it was like bright green. Just looked like on paper everything you look for in a killer bear spot, but they just
Yeah.
weren't there.
Yeah, I mean they there was just it depends. Like if it's early season too, they could just be not out as much as, or they could be nocturnal. It's just hard because sometimes you don't know exactly what, especially if you've hunted that spot year after year, there's bears there. Sometimes it's just you're not in the
Yeah.
right time. But
So where in Idaho are you?
I live just outside of Boise.
Okay, cool.
Yep, and so we have a lot of good bear hunting pretty much anywhere north and east of here.
Yeah.
So it's easy to get up. And I mean, like I said, we go bear hunting a lot right after work. So
Yeah.
you gotta love those long spring days. I mean, it's you can hunt like shooting light at one point goes all the way till I think pretty much 11. So
Wow. Dang,
yeah,
man. That's
long day.
wild. Yeah, and
Mhm.
it's nice like when you're out there because I feel like it's so like dependent on weather where like, I'm trying to plan like a bear hunt like months in advance and it's kind of a crapshoot. Whereas, if you live out there, you can sort of like where to go, when to go because you're right there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can see the green up. I mean, from our office, you can see the whole front kind of these mountains. And yeah, as soon as it starts greening up and you get that bright fluorescent green color that you can see
Mm,
from the office, usually that means like a lot of our spots around here are going to be full of bears. So
yeah, yeah, man. But I was listening to you on another podcast a little bit ago, and you mentioned you grew up surfing. So
yeah,
you're not from Idaho, and I grew up on a beach town too, and did a little surfing. But the waves we had were only good in the fall, and I was like, I would just had rather been deer hunting than like putting on a wetsuit and going out in November. But
yeah,
tell me about where'd you grow up? Tell me about yourself a little bit.
yeah. So I grew up in San Diego.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I grew up fishing and surfing every day, and that's what I love doing. I mean, I worked on a fishing boat when I was young, and worked at a surf shop after that. And yeah, I was super. And I mean, that's kind of what everyone does down there.
Yeah.
And I was great. I mean, I grew up right on the coast, so it was a lot easier to go surfing and fishing than it was to go out, hunting. And I didn't
Yeah.
really know that hunted growing up. Me and my friend that I fished a lot with, we always said like, man, if we knew someone that could take us hunting, we'd probably get into it just because we were into fishing. We got into spearfishing a lot too, like later
Mm-hmm.
in high school. And the funny thing is now both of us live here and we both hunt. So we both did eventually get into hunting. But in college, I met my wife who is from Boise, and her dad has hunted his whole life. And
Mm,
thankfully, he helped me get into it. There's kind of a barrier to entry with all the gear. Not that you
for
need
sure.
really that much gear, but he did help me, get into it with the gear and with a rifle. He even told me, like, here's a rifle you can use on your first deer hunt. If you get one, the rifle's yours. And
Oh, that's
luckily I got
cool.
one. So yeah, he gave me an old 30-30, and so that was fun. And yeah, I guess I got a job at Eberlestock a couple of years after getting into hunting, and since then it's just the addiction's kind of
So
gone
the
away.
addiction started after you got into the industry, or is it like you were like all in? You're like, oh, this is what I want to do, kind of like with my career and life.
I knew I was into it, but I didn't know how into it, or I didn't know, I guess, that you could hunt, like every day of the year. So I didn't know I would get as into it as I am.
Yeah.
But
Um. Okay. So how old were you when you went? I guess on your first hunt was a deer hunt, right? Mule deer hunt or whitetail?
it was mule deer. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I haven't actually. I went on a coos deer hunt, and that's the closest to a whitetail hunt I've been on yet so far. But
Okay.
um, yeah, it was a mule deer. It was just a depredation tag in Utah for doe. So
Okay.
that was college. I was probably 24
Okay. Cool.
on that first hunt. Yeah.
And so, tell me about Eberly Stock and how you got uh involved in there and kind of what you're doing.
Yeah, so I had a brother-in-law that worked here actually, and I was doing sales for a packaging company and then owned a clothing company on the side. So I was pretty busy, but really kind of looking for change. Just I was kind of getting burnt out of both jobs, and the two buddies that I own the clothing company were kind of in the same boat. They were looking to sell, so we actually sold the clothing company that I owned, and then I heard about Everly Stock needing someone that could do help with marketing, help with the photography, the videography, and social media. So I came up to Boise and interviewed with Glenn, and it wasn't quite the right timing, but 6 months later, I came back up for like a second interview, and it was kind of better timing. He was like, "Okay, I think we're ready to hire someone for this spot," and offered me a job, and we made the move. So I had a little 2-year old son no, he was 1 year old, I think. So yeah, me and my wife and our 1 year old son made the move from San Diego up to Boise,
Okay.
and and that was almost 6 years ago now.
So you're one of the Californians that have come into Idaho.
Yeah, like many. I mean, I don't know if it's good or bad to say, but yeah, a lot of the even employees here at Everly Stock originally grew up in California, and
Interesting.
yeah, I mean, we have a lot of native Idahoans here too, but a lot of I mean, that's just how it is in Idaho. You're gonna find a lot of people that have moved here from other places.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, man. Um, so were you like into media and photography and stuff like that already, or?
Yeah, so for that clothing company that I owned, I did all the photography for that company. And we were a pretty like social media heavy company. So I'm like, I
Yeah.
was out doing shoots a couple times a week after my day job. And then like originally my first photography job was probably almost 15 years ago now. I was doing a full-time portrait photography job where I would take couples out on kayaks down into La Jolla Cove. And it was kind of like a kayak tour to these sea caves where I'd be taking portrait shots with like a
Oh, that's cool.
underwater housing. So I'd be getting in the water, and
Oh, nice.
it's cool. I mean, it was long days. I would usually do four 3-hour shoots a day. So it was like 12-hour days in the
Wow.
water, paddling a kayak. I mean, it was pretty nuts, but that was for a whole summer, a lot of good experience. And from there, I kind of eventually got my own camera and started doing it on the side, and got into film photography. I mean, I like shooting film a lot too. My grandpa actually, so my grandpa was a refugee from Cuba. He
Oh,
came
really?
over,
Interesting.
yeah, yeah, in his 20s, he was actually into photography when he was growing up and when he, eventually lived here. So I have a couple of his old film cameras, which is kind of cool too. So
Okay.
runs in the family or something. But yeah, me and then my youngest brother actually he does a lot of photography for his job too.
So was
So
your granddad Cuban, or like
yeah, yeah.
they moved there and then were refugees from there?
No, yeah, he grew up in Cuba and Cienfuegos, Cuba, and then yeah, a lot of his family's still over there. He came over in a little raft when he was like
Whoa.
22, and then yeah, he landed in Florida, and then went out to California to where he went to college, and that's where he met my grandma, and that's where my mom was raised, and uh,
And your mom's just like, or your grandma's just like American?
yeah, and my mom looked. I mean, she has blonde hair, green eyes, even though she's cute, half Cuban. So,
Yeah. That's
but
interesting. Do you guys still have any like Cuban stuff in your like family traditions or anything that you hold on to, or not really?
I mean, no, I really like shellfish and
Are
stuff.
you
I
good at
remember
salsa dancing?
no. My wife always wants me to go, but no, I haven't really gone salsa dancing. But yeah, no, I remember eating shrimp a lot with my grandpa. That was like one of the best memories. I think he passed away when I was like 12.
Oh,
So,
okay.
or nah, I think I was probably only 8, but I definitely have some memories with him. And then yeah, when my grandma passed away, we were going through their house and stuff, and he had a lot of cool stuff from Cuba and cameras and all that kind of stuff. That was
Yeah.
pretty cool. And then
And
actually an old car. I actually drove that in high school, an
oh,
old
nice.
Falcon. So yeah,
Yeah, it's so interesting how diverse like the country can. I mean, just like one or two generations ago, your family's Cuban, and then now you're like a backcountry hunter in Idaho. It's like it
I
just
know.
seems like so different.
Yeah, I know. Like own I don't know how many guns, but a lot of guns. And yeah, he didn't own anything really. He came over
Yeah.
with a backpack and a raft. So
Like
yeah, it's
my
kind
wife's Iranian American, and they were refugees, and just like if you told her when she was like 13, like wearing a hijab in
of, yeah.
Islamic school in Iran, that she'd be married to some like redneck white dude American, she'd be like, "What?" You know?
Like there's no way. There's no
Yeah.
possible way that's gonna happen. Yeah, I know it is wild. But yeah, I'm definitely grateful for it. I mean, he sacrificed a lot to come over, and his sisters even were assassinated by the
Oh
government.
my
There's a whole
gosh.
museum after him in Havana, and so yeah, I mean it's crazy how real the oppression is for his family and my family that's still over there, really.
Oh, you still
And
have
we
family over there, huh?
yeah, my mom and my parents and my youngest brother went there a few years ago and actually visited them. But
Oh wow.
yeah, we named our youngest daughter Havana. Um,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, it's kind of cool. It's
Very
cute.
unique name.
Yeah, and it's she's I guess she's an eighth Cuban, even though she's got white blonde hair. But yeah,
How many kids you got?
just two. Yeah, I have
Okay.
a 6-year-old son and a 2-year-old daughter.
Okay. Cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, back to Eberlestock real quick.
Yep.
It's like I didn't know this, but pretty interesting like company histories. I correct me if I'm wrong. Like it was created. He was an Olympic rifle shooter, and then developed a rifle stock, and that's where the name comes from.
Yeah. So yeah, he did the biathlon, which is where you ski and then
Okay.
shoot. So that I think there's a couple different positions. There's a couple standing shots, and then you do prone out shots, and then you throw the rifle on your back and ski. So it's like
Yeah,
cross
yeah,
country mixed with rifle shooting. Glenn developed a stock for the Olympics that was lighter than anything. In fact, I'm in his office right now. There's one right in front of me. I'll grab it and
yeah,
show
yeah.
you. Yeah. So he developed.
Oh, cool.
It's not really focusing on it, but this rifle stock was
So
one that
that is an actual Eberly stock.
I'm pretty sure this is the one he used in the Olympics. I was just looking through some old pictures, and this looks just like it if it's not the exact one, and it's the exact style.
Nice.
So you see these three. So he kind of cut a lot of wood out that you used to have traditionally in the stocks, lightened
Mm-hmm.
it up a lot, and he lightened it up so much that they created a new regulation in the sport. And his rifle was the base weight. So you can't go under the weight that his rifle was
Oh,
at the
interesting.
time. And that's still the case now. So like these 3 rings, that was kind of his signature. One of the things he did to lighten up the rifle. And that's actually, if you look at our logo now, it's a three rings
Oh,
really stock. So that's kind of after the three ring
gotcha.
stock. And then obviously it's the company name Eberlestock. It used to be the Eberlestock Company because he started off by making rifle stocks.
Yeah. Okay. Do they still use some of those in like the Olympics and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think they use some different materials and stuff, but there's a lot of design features that he kind of created while he was at Dartmouth, actually,
Mm,
and on the the USA team that they still use on the US biathlon team today.
okay. And then I
And
guess
it's
it's some
sport wide too, not just for the USA team. He kind of innovated stuff that all countries use now.
gotcha. And
Yeah.
then when did that kind of morph into the what Everly stock is now and kind of into hunting and all that?
Yeah. So in 2001, obviously we had the 9/11 attack, and Glenn was already kind of making some backpacks for himself to go hunting. We have in our store here, we have some of his earliest designs, but it's basically a scabbard strapped onto a frame pack, and he would haul around his rifle like that and go elk hunting here in the woods. After 2001, after 9/11, he kind of thought maybe there's a military application as well. So he started off by um, making hunting packs because he was already kind of pretty far along on that design. But then he had a lot of guys from the different groups, like the Green Berets. I think it was the seventh group that came to him first that said like, you know, we uh we want to start making something like, or we want you to start making like something like this that can fit our rifles, with
Mm-hmm.
a little bigger platform. So Glenn made some adjustments and came out with the gunslinger pack, and the military side kind of went on from there, and then the hunting side kind of just kept developing as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So
So that
what's
was right after 2001 is when he started kind of the whole backpack side of it, and that's when he turned it from the Eberly Stock Company just to Eberly Stock.
okay? And
Yeah.
so your job is marketing and content. You said correct?
Yeah, I do a lot of different things here just because I've been here, I think now the second longest of anyone here. So
Nice.
a bunch of random stuff I do, but yeah, I handle a lot of the content. I handle kind of setting up a lot of the photo shoots, and then yeah, I kind of manage some of the social media stuff as well. I don't
Cool,
know.
man.
There's random stuff I do. But yeah.
Um, what was I gonna say? Oh, do you guys have any like cool new stuff you're working on or anything coming out this year that you're excited about?
Yeah. So like I said, we're heading to Sheep tomorrow and then straight to SHOT Show after that. We have a big line of packs coming out in our military side of our line.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, it's not gonna be a secret in like next week, but it's basically a modular system that
This
kind
won't
of
release till after the shows, if that
oh,
helps.
perfect. Okay. So yeah, it'll be our mission EMOD system
Okay.
officially. And it's basically modeled after our hunting modular pack system, but it's going to be all like on the military side. So we'll have
Okay.
a med bag, an assault bag, and then some different accessories that you can either add or take off of the pack depending on what kind of mission or what kind of job you're kind of running. So
Okay.
that'll be huge for us. We've been getting requests for that type of bag for a long time, and our pack designer Nate has been working with a lot of guys like tier one guys in the design of this pack system for the past year and a half or so. So we've really kind of honed it in on what guys are going to need, and we're really excited because that's going to do well. And then on the hunting side, we have a couple just improvements to some already existing packs. And then we have there's a lot of new stuff in the works that's just not gonna probably be ready to it's not gonna be released next week, but it'll
Yeah.
be sometime this year. So
Are you guys still operating off of your external frame? Are you looking to change that, or are your new packs going to be based off that system?
it'll be based off that similar system. We'll have eventually another frame that will still accept the packs and accessories that work with that modular system. It'll just be a different frame design. Just for people who prefer a different style frame.
Yeah.
but yeah, we really like our modular system, just how simple and easy it is to use, and how quickly you can change out your pack, or quickly you can take the pack off to put meat onto the frame.
Yeah.
So we're going to go away from that, but we'll add more accessories, more packs, and then a frame, another frame option or two for that.
Yeah. Well, I know I've never tried one of y'all's packs, but I know Brad Hunt loves his Eberlestock pack. He worked for
Yeah.
you guys for a long time, didn't he?
Yeah. He worked for us for a while. He was working with me a lot because he was doing a lot of our video at the
Oh,
time.
okay.
So he was filming and then editing most of our video.
Nice, man.
Yeah. Brad's awesome.
Yeah, he's a good hunter, man. Hard
Yeah.
worker. Very hard
Yep.
working dude.
Yeah, he knows the stuff too. I mean, hunting elk with Brad is just fun because you learn a lot. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I've been on a couple hunts with him. I've never been on an elk hunt with him though, but
I mean, he knows, yeah, not just elk hunting. He knows a lot about
right,
hunting.
right. But I would like to go on an
And
elk hunt with him because yeah, I know he's a great elk hunter.
obviously, he's a
So
great caller too. I mean, he's
yeah,
he's won a bunch of competitions and everything, and but he just knows how elk operate, how elk work. He's fun to watch because he
and he's
knows.
super handy. He can like fix stuff. So he's like the good
Oh
guy to
yeah,
have around if something breaks.
oh yeah, no, yeah, we used to call him Old Brad because he grew up in Cary, Idaho, a small
Yeah.
town in Idaho, and his dad ranched, and I mean, he's yeah, definitely good with his hands. He knows how to just do stuff,
Yep.
and yeah, he's a great guy to have around, great guy to be on a hunt with. He's
For
fun to be
sure,
in.
man.
Yeah.
Okay, so you grew up in California. You're kind of an adult onset hunter, which I actually didn't know that. I don't think. Um, and now you're, killing huge 8x8 bulls.
Yeah. I
No,
mean, I
but
feel
I'm kind of
lucky. Yeah.
joking. But no, but seriously, like, I am interested, because I'm kind of, I killed my first bull this year, and just learned a ton about hunting elk on this hunt I was on. Um, so I just like to hear a little bit about your like journey as a new hunter, because hunting deer, I grew up hunting whitetail, and obviously mule deer hunting out west is very different from whitetail hunting out east. But at the same time, like they're deer, they're pretty similar. Like, you know, if you're coming from a whitetail background, you're gonna have um, a little bit of knowledge about the animal. But you're coming to elk. I mean, it's a completely different animal. They behave differently. Everything about them is just more different than I was expecting. I honestly going into that hunt. So I'd love to hear just a little bit about your kind of journey. What were some of the biggest like aha moments, I guess? When you started elk hunting, when all that started to come together for you.
Yeah. I think so. Shortly after I killed that deer with that first rifle that I was talking about, my father-in-law was like, okay, I think my future son-in-law. I can't remember if I had married my wife at the time or if we were engaged or whatever, but he's like, Casey's pretty serious about hunting, serious enough where I'll go take him on a hunt. So he for Christmas that year was like, hey, my Christmas present to you this year is I'm going to take you on an elk hunt this fall, and it's gonna be an archery elk hunt. So he gave me his old bow, which is another great, like it's just that kind of stuff would be hard to get into if I didn't have that
Oh, for
resource.
sure.
He gave me his old Matthews and told me, I want you to train up for September.
Which
Um,
bow was it? Do you remember?
it was the Creed,
Okay.
Matthews Creed, a solo cam. It was a great bow. I mean, I killed I ended up killing a spike with it a couple years later, but he basically told me to train up for the hunt, and I shot every single day from when I got home back to San Diego till that elk hunt. So I shot, for what, 8, 9 months straight.
Nice.
And was just kind of a student of, archery elk hunting as much as I could be from San Diego. I went to 3D shoots down in San Diego and tried to, and I was shooting well, like for just having started that year, I felt really pretty confident. Came up here that year and we had like, it was that snowmageddon year that they talk about. It was crazy though. In September we had like 2.5 feet of snow, and we had been dropped off with horses like 10 miles way up in there.
Mm.
So we couldn't really move camp, and we were stuck in like 2.5 feet of snow, and a bunch of the elk dropped like well below us elevation wise. And so successful, it wasn't a successful hunt. But I don't know, I was still into it, and I was still even probably more fired up after that to try and get an elk. So I ended up moving to Idaho the year after that. and didn't hunt elk that year, but and then struggled for a couple of years with my bow, just archery elk hunting by myself, and had some close encounters, but finally made it happen a couple of years after that and got a spike. And yeah, I mean, I think after that I was just hooked to like elk
Mm-hmm.
hunting, during September. After that, it was just, it's like, okay, I'm going to be doing this every year. It was just so much fun. And yeah, I've managed to get two bulls with my bow. And then, yeah, this year I got my first bull with a rifle. So,
Oh, so that big boy was your first rifle bull, huh?
rifle elk. Yeah. Yeah. I'd never hunted rifle elk until this year. So it was fun. It's a little different. I mean, I definitely want to do both. I think every year, I think, archery elk hunting and during the ruts, just you can't compare to that. It's fun. But
Yeah.
yeah, hunting with a rifle is nice too. If you see something big that's, far away, you can still, you know, get a
Yeah.
poke at it.
Yeah, it's
Um,
definitely more of a glassing heavy type hunt, I guess.
yeah. Yeah, usually some rougher weather, and sometimes they're in some rougher stuff. They don't just come to you in the open or something. But
Yeah.
yeah, they both have their challenges, but they're both definitely rewarding. But yeah, I mean, I think getting into elk hunting was just, I thought I was kind of prepared, and you think you can learn a bunch from watching videos and stuff. But I think once I moved here, and I actually was out in the elk woods a lot every September, and I spent a lot of time out in elk country trying to call bulls in and everything. That's when I finally started making mistakes and started blowing stocks and started, doing the things that you kind of got to get through to
You do.
learn. And not that I know, like I feel like I know nothing a lot of times when I'm out there. And like, you go out with a guy like Brad, and I'm like, geez, like I feel like I just started hunting now,
Yeah.
like watching him. But it's definitely just spending time in the mountains. I think that experience is what gets you better, and helps you make the better decisions when it comes down to it, like in the moment, just because
Yeah.
you've already been there before. So
It's so true. Like you obviously you can learn a lot, like you said, from podcasts and videos and all that stuff. But one of the things that like impresses me a lot by guys who know or grew up elk hunting or grew up even just hunting in the mountains, really like. So my buddy Kobe Owens filmed my elk hunt for me, and like I was super lucky because he's a really good elk hunter, and he helped me out a lot actually.
yeah,
But like the thing is, and you can probably relate to this, like coming from a beach town, like probably one of the hardest things for me that just like comes second nature to these guys that grew up doing it is like mentally understanding topography and like how the animals move through it and
Mhm.
like recognizing landmarks and stuff like that. Like to me, it's just like, oh, hills, mountains everywhere. It's hard. People, and then like I hunt with somebody who's like really used to it, and they can like be like, oh, that's that ridge that we were hunting on the backside of 2 days ago, and I'm like, what?
Yeah,
Like, and then like, and also just like knowing how to move, like hear a bugle, kind of being able to judge roughly how far and where it is and where they're probably going to be moving and like getting into the right positioning for that. I found
100%.
myself a lot of times looking like an idiot, like I'm watching the footage back because I'm looking back at Kobe like what am I supposed to do right here? I have no idea.
Yeah,
And so I'm glad he was there, but that to me is like something where I'm truly amazed by those guys who grew up doing it. You know?
yeah. No, I think one thing that I don't know, I think it's kind of lucky is like I'm always really conscious of like where I'm at. Like I'm always looking at maps, and like I don't think I've taken a hike for over the last 10 years where I haven't like tracked it on Onyx.
Yeah.
So like I always have a good idea of where I'm at, but that's the thing is like the time in the mountains, like when I'm with one of my buddies that's elk hunted for years and years and years, like, or that's just hunted, not just elk hunted, but hunted for years and years, like, yeah, the way that yeah, it's like second nature for them to know how to play certain situations. I'm just like, dang, like it's it's fun when you're like, okay, that's what I think I would have done. But it's frustrating when you're like, geez, like that was the right play. I think I would have gone total opposite
Yeah.
way. And then so yeah, it's that definitely takes time. And I think every year you get a little better at it, but there's definitely times when you feel like it's your first day out in the mountains.
Yeah. And you gotta just like you said, you just gotta get out there and do it and blow up
Yeah.
stocks and because it like I said, I feel like I know nothing too, like even less than you. But not saying you don't know anything, but like I feel like I know nothing. Um, and but it's still like I learned so much even because so the elk hunt, my first elk hunt, I was like, I'm gonna kill my first elk this year. That was my goal, and I somehow drew like a high demand, like really good New Mexico elk tag. Um,
Yeah.
and so it was weird because there's like a lot of pressure to like kill an elk, but also it was a really good kind of first tag to have because there was tons of elk and I got lots of practice. And so, like my first stalk of the week was terrible, and I was like, I was like staring at my feet the whole time. I wasn't scanning, going fast when I should have been going slow, and
Yeah.
as the week progressed, I got better and better to like the point where like I got like within 50 yards of one, and like would have killed it except for like the wind switched at the last minute, like out of my control. Um, but yeah, you have to get out there and get reps and there's just no way to replace that. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think one thing that helped me too is I had had some like tough hunts after that first deer hunt, like that, I was talking about that elk hunt where we had tons of snow. There were a couple hunts in a row where it was just I was struggling, and so it was like once I moved here and I was out in the woods, like every day after work and stuff, I'd just be out hiking and trying to learn stuff. I was like, okay, now on my future hunts, like I'm not gonna worry about like size of animal and really even maturity. Like I just want to get some experience and like get some animals down
Mm-hmm.
and not pass on a lot and just get more experience harvesting animals. And
Yeah.
so there was like 2 years there where I didn't really eat a lot of tags just because I wasn't picky and it was fun. Like I got to learn a lot just by killing animals.
Yeah.
And then it's like the
And there's
second,
nothing wrong with that. Like I feel like some people feel
yeah,
pressure. I got to kill a huge. Like
yeah,
I'm totally happy with not killing huge animals. Like at this
yeah.
point in my career, like yes, it's awesome when you can kill a nice big mature animal. And certain species got to be a little more sensitive, like mule deer maybe, but there's nothing wrong with like embracing where you are in your like hunting progression. And so
Hmm.
now I filled a couple tags on like good animals, but yeah, maybe I'm a little more selective, this year. But um, it's okay to, like you said, get some reps.
Yeah. Yeah, there's certain animals like for me, bear, like I mean, I've killed a handful of bear now. It's like I don't want to just kill the first bear I see now. And like this last year I passed on a lot of bears that I probably would have shot the first few bear hunt or first years of bear hunting, but
Mm-hmm.
now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try and wait for something bigger. And I'm kind of that way, I think now with deer, like I'm gonna try and be a little more selective the next couple of years and unless I'm just, you know, out of meat or something. But
Yeah.
and then for elk too, like I don't know. Elk is a little different for me just because like I mean, we eat elk meat a lot at home. Not every night, but I mean, we eat it multiple times a week. And so if I don't have a lot of elk meat in the freezer at the end of the hunting season, it's kind of like, well, dang it, we're definitely gonna have to buy meat this year that I
Yeah.
would have, just had if I would have shot that spike instead of passed on it or something. So
Right.
that's probably the species that I'm gonna be a little less selective for a long time, unless I have multiple tags or something. But
Yeah. Is there pretty good opportunity for like cow tags and stuff out there?
yeah, there's a lot of late season kind of just cow tags that are technically you got to draw them, but they're pretty good odds, and there's a lot of different hunts that you can put in for
Yeah.
here in Idaho for cows and stuff.
Yeah. It's so satisfying. Like I know it gets talked about a lot, but it is really satisfying. Like when you're feeding your family 90%, I mean 90% of the meat we eat, unless it's like chicken or fish, we pretty much eat only wild game. Like sometimes we'll buy burgers, but pretty much all
Yeah,
the red meat we eat is game. And I was super blessed this year. Like yesterday, I was thinking like I ate caribou for lunch and no, I had elk for lunch and caribou for dinner. And
awesome.
it's
Yeah,
just like sometimes I'm packing lunch for my kids. I'm like, wonder how many other kids are taking caribou in their lunchbox today in
yeah, I
America.
know. I
Not
feel like
many.
my kids get a kick out of it because even if we're just eating like I don't even know, like ham sandwich, I'll be like, oh, do you guys like your pig meat or something? Like,
Yeah.
my daughter just loves like, yeah, this is deer meat, this is elk meat.
Yeah, my
She's
kids are the same,
like
man.
pointing
I
it
was on
out
a
now.
field trip with my kid one time this last year with my son, and we like it was lunchtime, and the kids were talking about what they're eating, and my son's like, "I'm eating caribou meat," and I started talking about hunting, and this one little girl's like, "You're a murderer," and I was like, "Do you eat meat?" And she was like, "Yes," and I was like, "Well, so are you, honey."
Yeah. You're a murderer too.
Oh man, but that's cool,
That's
man. Well,
yeah.
I know you had a killer season, and folks, you guys, Limitless actually released a film recently of
Yeah.
your big bull this year. But I'd love to hear the story, maybe entice some folks to go check out the hunt.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like no matter how much or how I describe it or how it shows in the video, it's just hard to describe, obviously, like how gnarly some of it was. But I think, yeah, so I mean, Limitless Outdoors, they have a YouTube channel. They're it's basically two brothers, Colton and
I've had
Justin.
Justin on the show.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
Justin and his younger brother Colton, two of the coolest guys I've ever met. They grew up here in Bonners Ferry, North Idaho. And they've both guided a little bit here and there, but they both have as much experience as anyone I've ever been in the mountains with.
yeah.
And Justin's a pilot, so we flew in to a very, very remote part of Idaho, and parked the plane right there on the side of the river, and ended up floating down this river in these cheap little rafts they got off Amazon. And we floated, I think it was 8 miles or so from that strip to a spot where we put out or we got out of the river. And our plan was to hike up. Like there were four of us, so this guy Joshua, and then Colton, Justin, and I. And Colton and I were going to hunt together, and then Justin and Joshua were going to hunt. We were going to hike up about 3,000 feet from the river, and everyone, like all three of those guys, had mule deer tags, and then I was the only one with an elk tag. And
Was there a trail, or were you guys bushwhacking the whole way up?
from the river there wasn't trails. I mean, on if you got once you got up onto like a ridge, there was kind of like game trails and stuff, but
Yeah,
and there was a trail along the river,
yeah.
like that kind of was, 20 feet above the actual water. That was like a horse trail. But so we started hiking up, and Justin like almost right away spotted a huge herd of elk, like a few ridges over, so like a mile and a half downriver and about 2,500 feet up. Um, and so they got a good look at him, and they're like, "Hey, looks good. There's definitely a bull up there." And I was filling up water at the time, so I get up there and like, "You should drop your stuff and go." So I just like dropped everything, grabbed my rifle.
Wait, real quick question: did
Yeah.
you fill up water and drag it all 3,000 feet up?
No, I actually didn't bring any water. I didn't bring. I ditched my pack, which I usually. I mean, I've really screwed myself over by doing that a bunch of times, and I was like, "Oh no, what have I done?" The whole time as we were going after this elk, because I'm like, I just left
Okay,
everything.
so you shot him on the first day.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I didn't know that. I haven't
like
seen the whole film yet.
yeah,
I skipped ahead to the part where you shoot him.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so it was the first day. And so me and Colton went after the bull.
But was that
Justin,
your plan though? Like, if you guys were camping, were you gonna take water the whole way up?
yeah, I mean, there's no water up there. I mean, it ended up snowing, so I mean, I guess we could have melted that. We didn't know if it was gonna snow
Yeah.
or not. So I mean, I
Anyway.
wouldn't have taken a ton, but yeah, because it was cold and everything. I wouldn't have gone through like a ton of water, but
Yeah.
yeah, I brought just my rifle and one trekking pole, and we headed up. We had to hike about a mile downriver along that horse trail,
Hmm.
and we took a ridge to just head up. And so it was kind of across a big, draw from where the elk were kind of just bedded and feeding around and stuff. And we got up there. Took a while to kind of relocate where the actual bull was. There was only one bull, and then there was like 20 cows. So we got into position. We couldn't get any closer than, what was it, 680 yards,
Mm.
and it was rainy and foggy, and like the only other option was going to be drop down to this draw, which they could have definitely seen us as we were dropping down, and then
Yeah.
pop up at like less than 100 yards, which I think would have
Ooh.
been pretty sketchy. So
Yeah.
um I told Colton that if I could get a good rest, I think I was good at 680. So took a while. It was really kind of a steep, muddy, slushy kind of hill, and finally got a good rest. And yeah, I put one shot. He was bedded too, which at first was a little. scary just because the way he was laying was a little weird, but I knew that if I was steady enough, I mean, I would put a shot where it needed to go. So I shot once. It kind of nicked his hip bone that was kind of sticking up over his vitals a little,
Hmm.
but it still kind of hit the back hip bone and into his vitals. But he stood up and was kind of wobbling around. So I shot him again, and he went down. And it was crazy because I was actually using a suppressor and it was so like foggy and steamy, kind of like that really, just really wet outside. When after my first shot, the suppressor was steaming so much, I was looking through the scope and I couldn't see anything because it was just like white, like fog. So I had to like blow the steam off of the can to get another shot off. But
And you're shooting. I see your Seekins hat. It looked like a Havoc Element.
yeah, it was the Element. It was the 7 PRC.
Nice. Do you like 7 PRC?
Yeah, I love it now. I mean, that was my first hunt with it. So
Nice.
yeah, it was went pretty well. That thing was awesome. And I just really like zeroed and shot the gun with that scope for the first time the week before. So I was a little
Wow.
nervous. Only taking a couple shots, like longer shots with it just a couple days before. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
everything's obviously tightened down to spec and everything was good. But I mean, with all that weather and going in a raft and banging against rocks and
Oh
stuff, you're
yeah.
always a little worried.
Was
So
that the longest shot you've made at an animal at this point?
um I made another one in Alaska on a blacktail at like I think it was 700,
Nice.
and it was a
Much
similar
smaller
shot.
target too.
Yeah, yeah. And that was a great shot. I mean, that thing went like backflipping off the hill when I shot him. So
Dude, they do that. Those Sitka blacktail do that. They do like weird stuff when you shoot them.
yeah, this thing like launched like, and luckily I was by myself, so luckily I set up a spotter with my phone recording the shot, and the deer was kind of feeding up, and I that was I'm glad I filmed it because it was almost dark. I shot and I didn't even know. Like I was like, I heard a hit. I don't know how if I hit it well or not. And then I looked back at my phone at the video and I was like, oh, perfect. I got it in the frame. And then you could see in the video that I just nailed him and he like backflipped off the hill. So
Nice.
luckily I had Colton filming this one with the elk, and I mean it was pretty easy to tell that I nailed him pretty good
Yeah.
shots. But yeah, he went right down. And the cool thing with using a suppressor when you're hunting too is those cows they stuck around for hours after I shot. So they had no idea where the shot came from or what happened. They just saw their big herd bull fall down. And
Wow.
so we had to go all the way back down, grab our packs, and then we left most of our camp stuff and had to hike. So we had to hike back up river a mile and then hike down about a mile and a half and then hike up 2,500 feet um, to where that bull was. And we got to him right before dark. And um, it was the biggest body bull I've ever seen. And Colton has, he's guided elk for years and years, and he said it's the biggest bull, like bodied bull he's ever seen too.
Jeez.
But we were calling him the horse bull because he was just massive. It took so like it was so much work just to even try and move him a little bit to cut him up and stuff. And
Yeah.
most elk that the other elk I've killed before, I think I got like 210, 205 pounds of meat. This one was like 325 or something.
Oh
So he
my
was a
gosh, that
lot
is
bigger body.
huge.
Yeah. So yeah, it was 5 hours that night cutting them up and, you know, caping them.
Yep.
And we took the first trip down that night. And then the next day we had to go up and do two more trips. So it was 4 trips total
So
up
it's
that
just the
mountain.
two of you?
Yeah, the Colt Justin and Joshua were hunting kind of right up from where we got off the rafts, and they killed a deer the same
Okay.
day I killed my elk. And then Colton and Justin headed back up after we got the bull down, and on the last morning, Colton killed a really nice buck, like a
Oh, nice, man.
165 or something, like a really nice 4 point buck.
That's awesome. Sounds like an epic trip, dude.
Yeah, it was awesome. We were super heavy coming out. I mean, just tons of meat. And
Yeah.
the craziest part of the whole hunt is honestly just the rafting out, I think, because we were done. We had so Justin had to hike the 8 miles that we had floated the first day back to his plane, and he was gonna
Okay.
his plane and fly like
Yeah, I was
18
gonna
miles
ask about that.
next trip. Yeah. And then Joshua just hiked the horse trail down 10 miles to the next strip and then me and Colton each were in a raft with all the gear between the two rafts, and we floated the 10 miles down. but that's where it was just sketchy because the water level dropped a bunch from the first day. So there were rocks just everywhere. And these rafts are not the best quality. I mean, they were a couple $100 off Amazon. And
Are you experienced rafter?
no, it was my first time ever rafting. So the water was freezing. I mean,
That
it
had
was,
to be scary, man.
yeah, it was pretty wild. And then every time we got to like a set of rapids, we were just like ping ponging off the rocks. And there were, constantly we were just tearing holes in each raft. So at first we were getting out and having to dump out the hundreds of pounds of meat and gear to flip them over to get the water out. And after a while, we just realized like, oh man, these are all torn apart. Like as soon as we put the rafts back in, they would just fill right back up. So we went down probably 5 or 6 miles of it with just water up to our knees
Oh my
in the
gosh.
raft. Like we
Were
were
you
just
wearing waders?
no,
No, you're
no,
just soaking wet.
just soaked. And so we barely got to the strip right before dark. Me and Colton were like hypothermic. I mean, I couldn't feel my legs for hours. We were just,
Oh my
shivering.
gosh.
Like we made it up to the strip and barely flew out of there before it was too dark to fly out, and left everything basically right on the rocks on the side of the river. And then the next day flew back in and got everything. So that night we were able to get a warm shower and we stayed at a hotel in a small town. But yeah, it got pretty wild there on the way
That is
out.
wild, man.
Every time, I mean, we every time we got to rapids too, we'd have to be like hopping out into the river, like trying to like drag the raft like over the rocks and just getting
Jeez.
soaked and stuff. It was quite eventful.
Wow, that's gnarly. Well, I mean, that shows you right there why that bull was back there and like survived
Yeah.
that long. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, there's no real, I don't know what else you could have done. I mean, if you had some really big pack string of horses, you could get back to where we were. But I mean, that's a lot of work too. So
yeah.
I don't
Dang,
even know.
man.
That's like
That's
yeah,
freaking
it'd be like
epic.
a 50 mile trip each way with horses or something to get to where we were. So I don't know if
Jeez.
that's even doable, really.
No. And it's so cool that, I mean, not many people could do that logistically, like with the plane and the rafts and everything, but still, it's pretty cool that like there are places in the lower 48 where you can like be that remote. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean honestly, I owe that all to the Limitless guys. I mean, Justin and Colton, they were the ones who planned that trip. They've done that trip before. And I just feel lucky because, that's yeah, like you said, logistically, that's a pretty tough trip to plan. And I just don't know if I'd have the confidence. I mean, I don't have a plane, obviously, so I mean, you could charter a plane in there and do all that, but like even just doing that would be pretty gnarly. Not
Oh yeah.
having those guys there that have done it before. So
Yeah, for sure, man.
yeah,
That is wild, dude. That sounds like a crazy trip. I did a really heavy float trip this year. Um, it wasn't. I don't think it was that sketchy. It was a lot longer of a float, but that seems sketchier. What you did.
yeah. I mean, it wasn't like I mean, we didn't see any other rafters. That's all I can say. It's not like people aren't doing that. And I know why now. So
Yeah, and in like cheap rafts, and it's your first time rafting.
yeah, I mean, I felt pretty good about it by the end, but man, I can't tell you like the feeling of dread you'd have every time you'd come around a turn and you'd see like you'd tell that it dropped off. There'd be some rapids, and you're just like, like you just knew like I'm gonna get stuck. I'm gonna get really wet. I'm gonna get even colder. I'm gonna have to
Mm-hmm.
like hop the river to drag this raft across these rocks, and like at one point, like even you know, I got caught on rocks. There's water pouring into the raft. Like I lost both sets of antlers. Like I had Joshua's deer rack and my elk rack in the raft and tons of meat. At one point, I lost the cape and both racks in the water. And so I got out of the rapids, and luckily they were kind of like washing, like near, and I was able to grab them all as I was like kind of passing them, but it was sketchy. Like stuff like that happened a
Gosh.
lot on our way out. So yeah,
Um, why? Question. Why did you guys use those rafts?
they had used them a lot before. I mean, they'd taken them to Alaska and done some pretty crazy caribou hunts with them,
Okay.
where they hiked in and then rafted out with caribou or sorry, it wasn't caribou, it was moose hunts that they did it with.
Yeah.
It's pretty gnarly country, but they had never, and they had rode them over rocks and stuff. The difference was like where we were, it was just such shale, sharp, razor
Yeah.
sharp rocks that we were kind of going through. So every time we went over rocks and stuff, it was cutting holes. And by the
Yeah.
end, I mean, like, I don't think we have video just because all of our stuff was so wet. Like even I don't know how my camera survived, even though it was soaked. But um, all the GoPros were dead, but like both of my back air tank things on my raft were fully popped and deflated. So I was like sitting back in the water.
Jeez.
And I don't know if like even like a high quality, like an air or, like a high quality raft could like make it without having a similar outcome. I mean,
Yeah.
it would be nice. You wouldn't have to bail the water out at least at first, but like I think it still would have ripped a bunch of holes in it just with
Yeah.
how sharp the rock was.
We did ours in Alaska this year in some alpaca raft rangers, and they
Uh-huh.
were self bailing, and
Yeah.
it was a 70-mile float out, but it probably wasn't as, I don't know. I don't think it was, and like I was wearing waders, so if I had to jump out, I was dry. It was cold. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but those things did really well. I don't know. I don't know if it would if the application would be the same, but they
And the
did really well for
self-bailing
us.
that feature would be nice because like even that first day there was a lot more water, so we weren't hitting so many rocks. But like oh, we were soaked. Like my boots the whole hunt were completely soaked through just because they got so wet on the raft in, and
Okay.
like, a lot of our gear was wet the whole time because of
So you're
that.
kind of lucky it happened on the first day.
Oh, that we killed the elk. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it definitely would have made it harder. I mean, we killed that. Colton killed that big deer the last day, but I mean, yeah, the hunt.
Oh, so you stayed longer. You didn't leave right after you killed that elk.
Oh no, no, we were there for like a week, so we were
Okay.
for or 5 more days, I think, after I killed my bull.
Nice,
So
man.
yeah, just because we still had a bunch of deer tags.
Cool. Well, that's freaking epic. So people, if you're listening, go to the Limitless Outdoors YouTube and watch the hunt. Like I said, I still haven't got a chance to watch the whole thing, but I did watch like the last kind of part of it, and it looks
Yeah.
pretty cool. And some of the still photos you got are like probably some of the coolest photos like from the whole industry this season, I would say.
No,
Um,
thanks.
there's
Yeah.
some epic ones, but so check those out. Um, you got any cool plans for this upcoming season yet, or still just waiting on draws, or
Uh, well,
what's your strategy?
I drew a deer tag this last year in Idaho, so I can't draw a deer tag this year. I'll put in for elk, but I think we're already planning like just archery elk hunting this year. Just an over the counter spot here, kind of close, and then yeah, I mean, I want to do some wolf hunts here coming up in the next couple months. I'll be gone,
Nice.
I think 4 out of the next 5 weeks just at shows and stuff. But as soon as I get back from that, I'll be doing a lot of trapping and then hopefully some wolf hunts. And then yeah, we'll just be doing our bear hunts. And yeah, I don't know. I don't think there'll be anything crazy. I'm gonna keep building points in like Wyoming and some other states. I'm not gonna burn points anywhere else. So I'm just doing
What
some over
states are you building points in?
just actually just Wyoming right now, and
Okay.
I think New Mexico.
New Mexico is no points.
Or no points. Okay.
Arizona?
Yeah, I think it's
Are you
Arizona.
applying for any stuff like that? Like do you apply for like New Mexico and Arizona
I
those or
have. I won't
Nevada
this
and all
year
those?
though. Yeah, I won't this fall. I think next year I might try and burn my Wyoming deer or elk. Um, and then I'll probably keep just putting it in for New Mexico after
Yeah.
that. I think I'm gonna try and just stay in Idaho this fall. And then
Gotcha.
no, I might try and do like a blacktail hunt in Alaska, like late fall. That was
Nice.
fun. Did that a couple years ago.
Yeah, I like on Kodiak or somewhere else.
Yeah, Kodiak. I was
Yeah.
just off. Yeah.
Yeah, I have 4 points, 4 elk points in Wyoming this year. And used to be you could like 100% draw the general elk tag
Yeah.
at that. Now it's like 36% with 4 points.
Jeez. Yeah. A little
So I
bit of
don't
creep then. Yeah.
know. I'm pretty much point banking everywhere. I don't know. I have like I'm getting to the point where I have like between 3 and 5 points in a lot of places. So like I have lots of options, but it's just like
Yeah.
figuring out what I want to do and when and trying to time it all out. But
Totally.
um,
Yeah. For here, like that's the thing is I'll probably get 2 deer tags and 2 elk tags this fall. For the
nice.
second one, you have to pay the out of state price, but even then, it's going to be a lot cheaper than going somewhere
Yeah.
out
And I
of
mean, if you
state.
live in
So,
Idaho, you're an Idaho resident. There's so much opportunity there. Like you don't need to look
yeah.
too much farther.
And I feel like I'm just playing catch up, like having moved here in my late 20s, it's like I I wish I just could take, 10 years off and learn the state more. Like there's so many cool places here I want to hunt.
Yeah, for sure.
Um and I know people that grew up here probably have hunted a lot of spots that I don't even know about or haven't been to. But I mean, I feel like as someone that's only been here, hunting 8 years or whatever, there's so much here to explore and to hunt. So
Totally,
I'm pretty
man.
excited about some stuff I have here. But yeah,
Well,
I'm definitely excited for Wyoming. I hunted on the Wyoming border a few years ago, and I mean that I feel like Wyoming's a cool state to hunt.
yeah, I've
I,
only ever hunted antelope in Wyoming. I'm kind of holding out maybe on my deer points there for that good region that everybody wants to hunt.
yeah,
And which is a few years away still, but like I said, I got options other places. Like I got a pretty good opportunities for like a Colorado third rifle, and I want to probably burn those before like in 3 or 4 years from now, and then the wolves kill everything. Um,
no, yeah.
so,
Yeah, it'll be
but
interesting to see how that all pans out. I feel like there will be uh hopefully, I mean, it's just kind of scary because Colorado was such a big out of state for people to come out west. So
hmm
I feel like it's going to be even harder for people to get tags in places like Idaho. It's already gotten hard, right? Like for
I
people to
know,
get
man.
here, you're flying or you're trying to get on trying to get online at in December for the next year, and
Yeah,
it's gotten pretty crazy. But I feel like that's only going to get crazier once
and
Colorado
it's
turns into
they
what it's
say
going
it's over the counter, but I mean it's essentially a draw. It's like you go in and if you
to.
don't,
Yeah,
you're not like one of the lucky few who's like in the first 100 or something. Like you're not
yeah,
going to get your first, second, or third choice. I mean, I did get an Idaho deer tag this year, but I was
cool.
still like number 3,000. So
Yeah,
I don't know, which actually is pretty good. Like I've heard you can get like 50,000.
yeah. I was gonna say I was talking to some people that were telling me they were a lot higher than that when they were
Yeah,
higher
I was
number than
stoked
that.
with 3,000 actually,
Yeah,
but
well, that's cool. You got a tag. Where else are you gonna be hunting this fall?
I don't know, man. Like I said, I don't. So Alaska caribou in Alaska is hard now because most places you got to book it like 3 years in advance or something.
Hmm.
So I do have like one kind of connect with the guy, the transporter that I went with last year, but I don't, and I want to hunt caribou again this year, but I don't know if I want to do like the same hunt again. So I'm not sure. I'm gonna keep working some angles and see if I can figure something out to do some kind of caribou hunt in August. Also, I'd love to kill a caribou hard horned, so I'd love to maybe push it back into like that first, second week of September, but still trying to figure that out. And then I could, so I'm thinking maybe do I could get a Colorado muzzleloader elk tag, a pretty good one, which is like a
Uh-huh.
during the rut hunt.
Cool.
Um, so could do that. Could randomly draw something good. I'm just gonna swing for the fences in like Arizona, New Mexico, and stuff. October, I don't know if I'll try to do rifle elk somewhere. Could do Wyoming antelope. I really like. I don't know, man. And then, but I do know November is like the month of deer. So I'm either gonna do Colorado third rifle, or maybe apply for just a general Montana deer tag.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't know, man. I got a lot of
It sounds like you have a
options,
lot of
but
options. I mean, that's
yeah,
cool. Like it's not like you're like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like you have a lot of different. I mean, you don't know, but you have a lot of possibilities. So that's cool.
yeah. And
Yeah, I
like
mean,
I would rather like there are some places where, I have like a 0.3% chance of drawing and I'll just put in just for like if I win the lottery kind of thing like this New Mexico thing I did this year. But I kind of like applying to stuff that I like know I'm going to draw so I can like plan. So I
exactly.
don't get in like the premium units, but I know I'm going to get this tag. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I feel like that's the hard part is you find out sometimes so late that if you find out like in late spring or something, you're like, great, now I got like my whole fall is different. Like it's totally
Yeah.
destroyed what I'm
Yeah,
gonna
and
do.
then if you're trying to hire a videographer, most of them are already booked by this
Oh
point,
yeah.
and
Yep.
so it's
That's what
kind of
happened to
different.
me. Yeah, like I drew a good deer tag this last fall and I think I found out in July. And at that point I couldn't really find anyone to come video it. We luckily kind of piggybacked off Glenn had a hunt. So we had one of our buddies from Slots Media out of the UK come and film part of it. But
Oh, nice.
yeah, it is hard. I mean, that's hard because usually a lot of videographers are going to be booked
Yeah,
almost a year in advance. They're going to be booking at these shows right now for the fall. So
exactly.
Yeah.
I did put in for a draw Alaska doll sheep unit with
Oh, sweet.
with Jeremy Rusnick from, I can't remember his outfit, Rogue Expeditions. So
Where is
that's
that? What part of Alaska?
it's the Alaska range. So
Okay.
like I think it's
Yeah.
pretty close to Anchorage.
Yeah. Yeah. We were in the Brooks Range last year on Glenn's sheep hunt. That was a lot of
Were you
fun.
guys out of Prudhoe on that?
Yeah. Prudhoe
That
Bay.
place is wild, isn't it?
It's weird. I mean, I try to describe it to people. It's like a whole city of Connex boxes, like all the hotels and
Yeah.
everything.
It's
It's a
like a
weird
work
place.
camp or something.
It is. Yeah. Like the the buffet meals at the hotels are like the most hearty meals you've ever seen because
Yeah.
it's like big oil worker dudes like working
Yeah.
out.
And they're not even hotels, they're dormitories for
Yeah.
workers. So
Yeah,
it's
they're there for
like,
like 2 weeks at a time, and then they go home for a week, and yeah,
yeah, and it's
it's
just
a
all
weird place.
oil workers or like hunters waiting to go out. It's a
Yeah,
super
I was
weird
stuck
place.
there when I first showed up. I was like a day later than like a lot of the other people showing up, and I was stuck there for like 2 days at the hotel, and I couldn't get a hold of anyone. So I was just sitting there, like I'd go eat my 3 hearty meals a day and just sit
Yeah.
in my hotel room, like just looking through all my gear again, just like I think I'm good. Like hopefully someone comes and picks me up.
Yeah. Kind of
Finally, I had
depressing.
some random, some guy come from the outfitter and was like, "I'm looking for Casey Richmond. He's supposed to come out and film a hunt or whatever." And so yeah, I got flown in, and yeah, that place is wild though. Like I mean,
It is so
I'm
weird.
not gonna
And
go back, but it's man, it's weird. Like it's
it,
definitely not like a vacation looking spot.
no, it's weird. But the Brooks Range is freaking sweet, man. Like the
Yeah,
spot we killed our bulls was like right at the foot of the Brooks, and well, a lot of the caribou hunts up there are like just like flat, just
yeah,
like tundra, and it's like
yeah.
it's cool, but it's not really pretty to be honest. But we were
No,
like right up against the mountains, and it was beautiful, man. Like
yeah,
we saw muskox and like wolves, moose, grizzlies. It
yep.
was great.
I know. Yeah, that place is wild. I'd love to go back. The just the geography in that area is just mind blowing. When you're flying around, you're
Yeah.
just like, "What?" I cannot believe there's places that look like this, and in I don't know. It's just crazy how many animals are up there too, and I don't know. I want to go back so bad though. I loved it up there.
Me too. It felt like it felt like I was in like a vibrant, like thriving ecosystem, you know?
Yes, yeah, but it like almost doesn't look like that when you first show up, and then you start realizing like, geez, like these animals are doing great here.
Yeah. Like my first caribou stock was blown up by two, like a white and a black wolf. I got to watch a white wolf and a black wolf like chasing like two giant caribou bulls. And it was like, oh dang, I didn't get to shoot one, but that was the coolest thing I've ever seen in my
Cool.
life.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and I feel like everything is just so wild there. Like even the
Yeah.
grizzly, they're flying over like grizzly, and they're like trying to attack the plane. Just like what is like this?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean it's just crazy how many caribou are out there, and then the sheep. Like when you find the sheep, like where they live, and you're just like, I cannot believe these animals live here. Like
Yeah.
it's just crazy.
So
And
cool.
yeah, I mean, I would like recommend that any hunter out there like has to make it to the Brooks Range before they die. Like it's such a
Hmm.
cool spot.
Absolutely, man. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I appreciate you, dude. It was good talking to you. Where can folks go if they want to check out your stuff or Eberlestock and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, Eberlestock is easy. It's just the Instagram handle is probably your best bet at seeing kind of what's going on, but it's just Eberlestock, and then my Instagram is just Casey_Richmond. Um,
Cool.
I don't post a ton, but yeah, it's kind of where I post what's going on as well. And yeah, I'm always
Sweet.
out hunting. I need to kind of be better about posting. I finally just gave up the Eberlestock Instagram posting to someone else,
Oh, you
and
did? Okay.
kind of been like almost taking a break from Instagram, but
Yeah,
I'll
there's
be
nothing
back.
wrong with that.
Yeah, yeah.
Nothing wrong with that, man. All right, cool, dude. Well, I'll see you at SHOT Show and good talking
Yep.
to you.
Yeah, thanks. Yep. Look forward to seeing you.
All right, man.